is the bell. Investors cheered stocks soaring to new heights in 2025, and the records go far beyond Wall Street. The number of 401k millionaires, for example, exploding, now at the highest level on record. Does it continue? Charles, what do you think? Do markets continue the melt up in 26?
Absolutely. I thought it was interesting. We had a video there of Wells Fargo coming into the year. They had the only firm that so far is right. They had 7,000. That was their target. Every other firm on Wall Street is below where the market is right now.
By the way, I'm shocked. Yeah, because usually they're not the ones that are right.
You know, so maybe if they were due. But the point is that, you know, for all the hand-wringing about this being a concentrated rally and it's just a handful of names, that's the opportunity. That's the opportunity. You know, at one point this month, 61% of the names in the S&P 500 were beating the S&P 500 finally, right? So the rally will broaden out. Here's the irony. Without those big names, if they move sideways, the market won't look like it's great shakes. Oh, the S&P was only up X amount. But a number of names that will rally next year will supersede the number of names that rallied this year.
Profits.
Here's my take on this. Yes, profits. But also, do you know that right now there's $8 trillion in money market accounts? Okay, when you've got $8 trillion in money market accounts and you think interest rates are going down, guess what? They're going to go down in money market accounts as well. People are going to say, I'm not going to stick around with my rate at 2%. I'm going to put money in the stock market.
Right. And about
$8 trillion in money market goes into the stock market, market goes higher.
You take a look at the forward consensus, forward earnings, forward profits. Profits are the mother's milk of stocks. I've said that for years. Profits are driving this thing. You're going to get added torque from liquidity. I agree with you. And it's an easing cycle from the Federal Reserve. How long that goes, I don't know, but it's going to go for probably most of next year, particularly as oil and gasoline bring inflation down, which I think is an unexpected development. But I got some other stuff. Look, in the Wall Street Journal, they were talking about transportation stocks, okay? Dow theory, up 38%. From the lows in April. The small cap Russell, 2000, up 44%, beating the S&P.
We've been waiting for a bid on small caps for how long? Finally, it's breaking out.
So it really, it's broadening out. Is what I'm suggesting. It's broadening out, and the profits outlook is just terrific. Yeah. So why shouldn't the market go up?
Well, as long, inflation is great for all of these risk assets, as long as everything goes off without a hitch, and as long as people are willing to accept zero real return.
Are you going to bring out Debbie Downer right now?
Yeah, zero. He calls me zero sum. Which is true. No, but people, like, inflation is great for stocks, but you've got to accept a zero real return in government bonds. And if that keeps, if that continues,
I'm going to give you
that's terrific.
I'm going to give you a 1.5% inflation rate for next year. 1.5%. So this stock market, all these categories, whatever it is, technology, industrials, they're going to have huge returns. So these are real returns going up. Money market people are going to be watching that. Yeah. You're not going to make any money with a tiny interest rate. Interest rates come way down.
Well, the point,
this is an easing cycle from the Fed, accompanied by huge profits. And don't forget, you got tax cuts coming, huge tax cuts, and you've got deregulation, which is like a second tax cut. In other words, free market capitalism is running wild. That's what Trump wants. He wants business to run wild.
Yes, he does.
Right.
He wants private enterprise to lead this economy.
Yes,
that is his goal. That's what he wants to see at the end of it. Look, we can't talk about investing.
No more big government socialism. He wants a private economy, businesses. It's made for the stock market.
We can't talk about the stock market without talking about the AI stocks. Okay? Right. Do you know that this year NVIDIA hit $5 trillion in valuation? I mean, how much does this company have to earn to justify a $5 trillion market cap? I'm not against it. Guess what? I think it's going there.
You know what?
And I think AI continues to lead in 26. But it's a question.
NVIDIA is cheaper now than it was 3 years ago.
Yes, and that's why I believe it's going to continue going higher.
And, you know, of course, I remember
based on earnings.
People saying, how can a $1 trillion stock become a $2 trillion stock? Listen, we've never had this combination of names, and for all the hand-wringing, again, for the concentration that had this much going for them. It's just absolutely amazing in the midst of all of this. But again, now the key is companies are using AI. In the third quarter earnings, companies that mention AI their share price went up on earnings significantly more than companies that did not mention AI. So it's not just these big names, the tools, right, the picks and shovels, but implementation of it, inference. That's where the big gains are going to be made.
We'll talk about that coming up. But
we're going to see a huge gain in productivity because of AI and because of other things related to AI.
Supply chains.
But basically, that is anti-inflationary also. Productivity is going to be driving this economy. And that's why I don't know all these
I've
AI
read this
stocks.
quote to you before.
I'm just saying, if you get, I'm going to give you 5% growth, 1.5% inflation, okay? That is stocks.
That's Goldilocks.
Yes.
Goldilocks economy, here we come.
Yeah, but if you can
stocks are going to soar.
Yeah, but if you can get 4% on a 10-year and inflation is 1.5%, then I'm just saying, then that's going to attract a lot of capital.
Right, you're talking about a lot of capital.
I'm talking about money, but I want to talk about AI. I know we're going to talk about it coming up, but I talk to people every day in tech who are using AI, and I've read you this quote before. This is somebody who is a software developer. With AI tools like Claude Code connecting to data sources like Notion, GitHub, and Google Docs as examples, I am doing more with AI every day. I'm doing more with the exact same budget that I have than I ever have before. And there has been an incredible sea change just in the last 8 months. It is transformational for generations to come in this country. And President Trump has enabled this, because it was going to go away and be controlled by the government if Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had been elected.
I had David Sachs on.
Right.
And we were talking, they're going to stop the states from all their DEI and crazy ideological things.
That's right.
And the federal government, Trump signed the executive order.
Yep.
That's going to really help.
But I agree, we should have one national standard. We can't have 50 states coming up with their own rules around AI.
But I did want to add, there is still the overspend that is happening among the very large technology players. You have these giants, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Oracle, Meta, just to name a few, but they are in this winner takes all race. And they believe that if whoever isn't first is going to be last for a decade.
Well, they'll stub their
or
toes.
25 years. But that toe stubbing has already started showing up in the stocks.
But that's
Oracle has collapsed in the last month.
You want
NVIDIA is down.
You have to ask the question, when are we going to get a return on investment?
Right.
You're talking about trillions and trillions of dollars every year expected to go into AI. You have to ask the question, are we going to get any return on investment in this or not? And that's what's troubling markets right now. And that's why some of these names are trading down, because we're not seeing the ROI. But when I asked Jensen Huang this from NVIDIA, he said, Maria, it's transforming the whole economy. It's going to happen. It takes time.
Well, Jensen's going to say that because he's selling the chips.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But we should put it in proper perspective. These stocks are up, something like NVIDIA, several thousand%. To be a few bucks off the all-time high is not a red flag for me.
It's not NVIDIA that is troubling. It is, say, an Oracle who is borrowing money hand over fist trying to keep
Oracle's
up with an
situation.
Amazon.
The stock is down 30% since September.
I always believe, and I'm sure these things, they'll stub their toes in there. I say, buy the index, and hold it.
And I'll say one thing. Look at Caterpillar stock. If you
hold
want to know what AI is going to do for old school companies, look at a Caterpillar. That's all I leave for the audience. Go look at it. Look it up during a commercial break.
President Trump likes to say this country was dead and now we're the hottest country in the world. Why? Because the president has scored trillions of dollars in both foreign and corporate investments into America, helping to transform the manufacturing supply chain at home and away from China. This is very important because therein lies the issue that we're talking about. It's going to create jobs. We got national security issues also. What I love about President Trump's agenda, it's wrapped in national security. Of course, we should not be relying on China for 90% of the components for our pharmaceutical drugs. Of course, we should not be relying on Taiwan for 90% of the advanced semiconductors that we use in the military.
I was troubled by NVIDIA selling chips to China.
It's an issue.
Because I'm very hawkish on China for national security reasons. But nonetheless.
Well, what you're talking about, Maria, is a new way of going about national security, which is also economic security. Before they were separated, now they're closely tied. And then opening up the Middle East, these trillions of dollars that are coming in. For all of the fact that the financial media in America seems to be cheering on China. That's how much their disdain for Trump is. Foreign direct investment has collapsed in China. No one invests in China. Foreign direct investment in America is going through the roof, and we'll have trillions of dollars more next year.
It's so interesting. You're so right. When Trump started the reciprocal trade announcements, okay, and I know it went too far and some of the formulas were not good, but they made the proper adjustments. But here's the thing. Everybody said, we're going to flock to China. We're going to leave the U.S. Instead, you're right, instead of protectionism and retaliation around the world, which was the 1930s.
That was Smoot-Hawley. That was the reason Smoot-Hawley didn't work.
We now have deal-making around the world.
Yeah.
It's completely opposite
Right.
from what the lefty media was predicting because of Trump. Deal-making around the world. And it's all very flexible.
Yeah.
We've seen it. I mean, the average tariff is only about 10 or 12%. Yeah, it's bringing in a couple of $100 billion, but he's using it in many ways for foreign policy, and he's changed. It's like incentives. If you play ball with us, we're going to give you a lower tariff.
Right.
And I think it's just the
Brilliant.
opposite of what the left said.
And that is why this
And it's
decision from the
terrific.
Supreme Court could not be more important.